This week on the Three Rings podcast.
All stories should be celebrated, not just tolerated. And I got in trouble. I was the first girl to get tattoos, but I didn't get up this morning and just put on like my woman outfit because I always felt uncomfortable like that. Go to them with your look, with your style, and they will go, oh, I didn't know that I wanted that.
Welcome to the 26th episode of the Three Rings podcast and the first of season 2. My name's Stuart Bishop and I'm here with my fellow director, Bailey J. Muir.
Before we get into this great conversation, subscribe to the channel, give us a like on the video and turn your notification bell up top so you know all about next week's episode.
This week's guest is Christina Andrea. Christina is one of the most well-known and loved female choreographers within the entertainment industry. As a dancer, Christina performed all over the world for artists like Jessie J, Lambert and Paloma Faith, before going on to choreograph and show direct tours for artists such as Dido and Anastacia. Christina also hosts her very popular classes at top London studios, Pineapple and Base. Christina Andrea, how are you?
Good morning, Stuart. I'm good. I'm happy to be here. Lovely to see your faces. All is well.
First of all, let me introduce you to Bailey. Have you ever met? I feel like you have you met?
Probably not in the physical form.
I think we've met in passing briefly after one of our auditions, but never really spoke at length.
Yeah, probably.
This is the start of a new relationship between you two, and a continuation of our very long relationship that we've had over the years.
Absolutely.
It's fantastic to have you on the podcast. Thank you for coming on. Thank you for being the first guest of season 2. Somehow, Bailey, we've made it to a season 2. We will drop links for our guest episodes that we've had in season 1, including Dax. If you haven't watched that, guys, do get on that. But today is all about the most beautiful woman, the most beautiful choreographer out there, Christina Andrea. I was saying as I came on, we haven't spoken for a little bit, so I was thinking, I'm sure at some point she's going to stop peaking. But look at you! You look amazing. You look relaxed. Where are you? Are you in your house?
Yeah, I'm at home. I mean, I just got a delivery. I just heard the doorbell go. I'm gonna let them put it outside. But yes, I'm at home.
Oh, wow. Well, we've got so much to talk about. We have got a time limit because you have got to go off and do stuff. You're a busy woman. So we're going to try and keep it to about an hour and a half so we don't basically bugger up your day. But we're going to start first of all with just a sort of a bamboozle of a question. And we're probably going to ask the same question at the end after you've probably then given your whole life, but we're going to ask, who is Christina Andrea?
And I've got to answer that question.
Yes, go for it.
Oh, what a question. It's like, what is the meaning of life? I mean, I'm a human. I'm definitely a dancey human. I don't really like to identify as like a label of just like I am a choreographer, because that kind of takes away from all the other lovely human qualities that I have. But in the workplace, I am a dance professional. I'm a choreographer. I'm a judge. I'm a bit of everything. I'm a teacher. I'm a coach. I'm a mentor. And then I'm also a friend. You know, I'm also like, I'm a vegan. I'm a gay. I'm all these things. I'm all the labels and everything in between.
Bailey, it's so interesting, isn't it? Because we've never asked this question. We're going to start asking this question at the start of who is the person, because we always start with the second question, which we're about to go into in a minute, which is tell us how you got started, blah, blah, blah. But we feel like just from watching our last sort of guest episodes we've had, to be able to ask a tricky question at the start kind of shows the type of person they are. And you are a very balanced person, a very chilled person. And yeah, it's nice, I think, just to start with sort of making you think of, bloody hell, who am I?
Yeah, it's a big one.
But let's now delve in and tell us exactly how you got started in the arts. I've heard this story before, and I was saying to Bailey that it hasn't always been plain sailing for you, and you were kind of naughty at the start of your career, weren't you? You were like a bit of a rebel, but maybe I'm wrong there. But go on, tell me.
Maybe you just see me and you think naughty. I think people do see me and think naughty. I mean, how far do you want me to go back? Do you want me to go back from like when I started dancing, or college and career, or a quick brief view of everything?
I think a quick view of everything. How.
Right.
I think most people are. I think we're interested in sort of maybe just from before you started dancing. Why is it you got into dance? Why didn't you become something else?
Yeah, good point. I mean, I started dancing at 4. My mum is a pianist. My granddad is an artist. And I think that sort of creative vein was going through my blood. And my babysitter had 2 daughters that went to the local dance school. And I was really interested in it. And my mum decided to take me at age 4 to my first class. And when I finished, she said, did you enjoy it? And I said, we didn't do any shows or any exams, but it was all right. And that was me, age 4, first class. And we're pointing toes and, doing first position pointing toes. And I obviously wanted more right from the beginning. I carried on in my little village for my entire life, up to 16. I had this amazing dance teacher who gave me opportunities to do other things within the industry. I assisted her. When I say industry, I mean the Kegworth village industry, the village hall industry. I assisted her. I played tapes in exams. I would choreograph. So I choreographed show numbers from a really young age. And I really loved that. And then when the time came to go to college, I mean, I was naughty. I went to art college for 2 years. It was a 1-year course. I kept dropping out. I came out as gay. I was quite wild. And I kept failing this course because I wasn't showing up, because I didn't really want to do it. I wanted to go to London and I wanted to dance, but I'm from a single parent family. We didn't have money. The fact I was able to do dance lessons was because Mrs. Dunbar, my teacher, gave me discount lessons and really looked after me. So going to London to go to dance college was kind of out of my reach. So I tried art college, kept flunking, and eventually got my arse in gear and was like, I have to do London. I have to go. And so I auditioned for 3 places. I think I auditioned for 3 places. It was kind of before the internet, you couldn't really research. And I'd heard that Erdang was a ballet school. So it was kind of unlikely I was going to get in there. And then I auditioned at Tiffany, and I auditioned at, Arts Ed and Mountview, because they were the places that you heard of. Listen, I wasn't prepared for my singing audition. I really wasn't. I hadn't even rehearsed it with the piano. It was a shock. It was a shocker. But something happened during my audition for Erdang, and I fell in love with the place. And I was like, I have to go there. And I got a place. And I think my life really changed then. There was 2 jazz teachers, Paul Hack and Carl Paris. And I fell in love with their teaching. And I was just like, I have to be at this school. So I went to Erdang for 3 years. And at Erdang, I saw Miss Pope recently. She's the head. And I got in trouble. I was the first girl to get tattoos. I got banned from the first year show because it was a period piece. It was set in the 40s. And they're like, you can't be in the first year show with tattoo. And I still have it, obviously, but I had the tattoo on my neck. I then told them that you can get makeup to cover it up. I was a bit of a rebel, and I wasn't allowed in the first year show, you'd be glad to know. But it caused a right ruckus. But I think, although I was a bit of a rebel, I was also I was really hardworking, and I got on, because I was a bit older, I got on really well with the teachers. So I had quite a nice, a cheeky balance. I was a bit naughty, but I was a really hard worker. And because I'd spent 2 years at art college, I knew this was my time. I knew I didn't have any time to waste. So I was actually really studious. So I did really, really focus. And then I graduated, and then I ripped my hamstring. So I graduated into a show called Britannia. It just says my internet connection is unstable. Hopefully I don't do buffer face the whole way through. I graduated into Britannia High, and I was doing some stretching around the artists with this lad, and he pulled my leg over my head, which it doesn't go. It never used to go, and it still doesn't go today. And I heard a tear, and I was like, "Oh my God!" And I torn my hamstring. I'm like a month fresh out of college, and my hamstrings bust. And that was a huge change of direction. Every audition that I thought I was going to go to for cruises and whatever, couldn't do, because obviously we're still in kicks in the left land. And actually it was the biggest blessing, because then I started to choreograph for myself, which I'd always wanted to do, but didn't, I was too like imposter syndrome. So I started to choreograph. I started to teach classes, put a company together. And that's when my choreography journey started. So it started a bit earlier than it probably would have. And then I got in touch, there was agents like Rudai, and I got in touch. I think I auditioned for you guys for, well, obviously you're now Three Rings, but back in the day, I auditioned for Rudai for hair shows. And then I got with the agency that way. And, we started our relationship, and I had teaching. So I was like, can I teach for you guys? And the rest is kind of history. Our relationship developed, and I was working as a dancer, but I was also working as a teacher and a choreographer. And that's kind of where it started and grown from. That's the short version. It took about 10 minutes.
Nice and short. Love it. I just want to.
Do you want the short version?
I just want to walk back to that moment in first year in college where you've got that tattoo. I feel like there's something to find there where, with yourself, I've always said to Stuart, like, what sets you apart is you're not only known for your work, but you're also known for your brand. Like, you are Christina. It's so recognizable. You're edgy, you've got your own style, the tattoos, all of that, it's a makeup of you. When you were getting those tattoos, when really, at that point in time, it's like rule breaking, isn't it? Were you doing that consciously as like, this will set me apart? Even if my teachers are saying this isn't good, it's a planned thing, or were you just doing it because you wanted to do it?
No, I would say there's so many near misses. I had so many nearly awful tattoos, and I just feel like, whew. No, it definitely wasn't a conscious thing. Although, when I got my hair cut short, there were some lads. There's Hamilton. I used to live at Hamilton's a choreographer, a teacher in LA now, but he used to live in the UK, and I used to live with him. And Hamilton had this floppy hair that he used to swish from side to side, and so did Dean Lee. And these were like my peers. And Dean had his gorgeous curly hair, but he had the side shave, and I was like, to have that hair, like to be a boy, and I'm not non-binary and I'm not trans, but I definitely identify more with the male dancers and how they presented. Although I did at one point have this long, swishy hair. And so the haircut thing, when I got my haircut, because this is probably quite long for me, but for quite a long time in my dancer career, I had like the shaved head and the bit on top. That wasn't necessarily a conscious thing about branding, although it became that way, but it was a conscious thing about how I wanted to feel when I danced. And I kind of then got this thing back from the commercial industry where it was supported and it was recognized. So it then became this double-edged sword that I was like, oh, great. Well, I know that the more I am myself, the more I am celebrated. But at Erdang, when I had long swishy hair and a tattoo, no, it wasn't conscious. But I have always had like a really strong sense of who I am. And I knew that I was not going to be one of those, I was never going to be the romantic lead. And I was never going to be like one of 20 girls, soldiers who looked the same. I kind of knew even then at college, like I would get like the character songs, or I would be like, like the devil temptress woman. I was never like the girl skipping around picking flowers. So I guess I just dressed the way that I felt, and then my career mirrored that back to me because it made sense.
Yeah. Were you, did you have any worries at all of your path? Because you were when you were sort of, I remember you thinking, well, you are the only one who isn't commercial looking hair, even though when you look at it, it was probably funkier than anybody else. But it was like you came at a point where perhaps the industry wasn't quite there yet. If you look now, how many girls have sort of taken on that mantle of sort of the rebel look and stuff like that. But back then it was, we were still sort of living off, blondes and everyone looking the same, and like, and tattoos were not allowed, so
Yeah.
so it was like, was there worry? Were you, you must have known that, well, basically, unless you do it by yourself, unless you create that kind of sort of path, or did you know that? Tell us about that.
Yeah, I think looking back, there's definitely things I would have, in brackets, missed out on, but I didn't want those jobs. I remember once, so I did Paloma Faith and CeeLo Green at the Brits, and I had the top knot. I had the top knot and the shaved sides, and Lyndon, who choreographed it, said, "Oh, we love you," but everyone's got these horse ponytails. Like, everybody had the slick hair and the horse ponytails. He said, "Can you get some weave?" So I actually went and got weave sewn into my little bit of hair that I had at the top, so that we could attach this huge ponytail so I could look like all the rest of the girls. And listen, I was willing to do it for a job like that. If it was high level enough, I'm like, girl me up. But I was always interested in the jobs that I was right for. The prisony looking chick, like, and the hair shows, so I got with Rudai through hair shows. They needed to be able to chop your hair off. And it's easy to say in retrospect, it is easy to say when I look back at my career that, like, it totally made sense and it was an easy choice. But I didn't even, I did a lot of things kind of blindly, if I'm honest. I just did me. And I found that, stuff like Jessie J, Do It Like a Dude. I got that. Literally, the director messaged me on Facebook. I'd done a video with him before, and he said, "Do you still look like this?" And I did a picture of me sitting in a chair, and I've got my shaved head, and it was like, yeah, and that was it, booked. So I had enough experiences, and I did that fabulous Reebok shoot with Yasmin Ogbu, like, through Rudai. I know that I got that because I had an interesting look. I wouldn't have been looked at twice if I had a long brown ponytail and I was another one of those. Those girls existed. And I just felt like I might not be right for everything, but the things that are right for me, I'm really right for. And that's what I was interested in.
It's so clear that that's what's created your success as well. I think there's something for dancers to learn from this, in like daring to be yourself. Actually, you're limiting then your competition, which allows you to succeed. We all know one of the biggest problems in the industry is that oversaturation, which you found your way to avoid that, which is awesome. Now,
yeah, and I found that college told us be a blank canvas, and then the casting directors they'll see you, and they'll know to put you in this XYZ. And I found the opposite. Show them, for me, it wasn't be a blank canvas and they will draw on you. It was like, go to them with your look, with your style, and they will go, "Oh, I didn't know that I wanted that. That's what I want. That's interesting." So that's kind of like been my experience.
I'd be interested to get your thoughts on this. I always feel like that college model, the reason they have this whole philosophy of a blank canvas is because they're focusing towards that musical theatre space where 1 minute you're in the 1500s, next minute you're present day. So you've got to be so blank canvas that you can then be anything. And I always feel like commercial is then the direct opposite. Do you think there's something in that training where actually we're not really teaching, at a college level we're not really teaching how the commercial industry really works? What's your thoughts on that?
I mean, so even within the commercial industry, you've got your soldiers, you've got and you've also got your choreographers that like different types. Now, let's be honest. If I'm booking 10 commercial dancers who are the same height, who are the same size, who are the same look, my work is going to look slick. So there's still a call for that in the commercial industry if that's your bag. And there are loads of choreographers who like that, and it makes sense. I'm probably more personally interested in a motley crew of 10 dancers of different shapes and styles and genders and look, but that's my preference. So it makes your work look different, and that is a preference. And I think the thing with, it's like if my ethos was to tell everybody, go and get tats, shave your head, they'd still be out of work. because it wouldn't make sense to them. So what I'm actually saying is, you do you, boo. Do you know what I mean? I'm saying, if you feel that way, then go for it. But if you feel like a soldier, if your thing is that I pick up choreography and I am a yes person and I want to be in the lineup, then there is space for that too. So I think it's like, you know, don't ever copy somebody else because of their success, because you can do exactly the same thing and it won't work for you. You've got to know, you know, no, I didn't know why I was doing it, but I always knew that I was being true to myself, and then that sort of reflected out.
I first heard of you. The first time I ever saw you was as a choreographer, and it was on TV. Was it Got to Dance?
Yeah, yes.
To Dance? Got to Dance. Yeah. But you were. It was like you were the the whole feature of the promo was about you.
Yes.
You were the focus in this. Were you actually in it, in the piece?
Yeah, of course I was. Of course I was. My whole early choreography career was about putting myself front and center. It was like, hey, I've got a group, but I'm at the front.
But they got the hint, and they just featured. Yeah. It was all about you, and your dancers were I think they were interviewed saying how much they loved your choreography and all this. When did you or did you actually? Because at that point, I'm only seeing you as a choreographer. Then, had you? You said you had injuries, but was there an actual point where you were like, right, do you know what? Actually, I'm going to be a choreographer and not a performer, because I never knew you as a performer. But obviously, as we represented you, there were times where you choreographed, but there was also times where you dance as well. However, I never saw you as a dancer. Do you think that the fact that you had that sort of on TV, I'm a choreographer, this is what I am, sort of pushed you fully into choreography, or were you still wanting, and do you still have this thing to be center stage or performing?
It's definitely changed. I remember. I mean, I didn't exclusively perform for very long. I got my injury really early, which meant I couldn't do lots of things that, to be honest, I didn't really want to do. I didn't want to do cruises. I didn't want to do those sorts of corporate-y jobs. I wanted to do hero work. I wanted to do adverts and music videos. But even with the music videos, after a year of doing, I did a few. I did like Natalie and Brulier. I did Jessie J, both of them. I did some girl bands you'll never have heard of because they've come and gone. And I was like, tick. I didn't want to keep doing them forever. It was like, okay, cool, that's great, but I want more. And I always liked the creative side. Yes, very much in my early days, I was making up, because I hadn't been able to perform, my dance group was very much about showcasing me. So I was front and center, like shamelessly. And yeah, your example of Got to Dance was 100% that, there was 5 of us, and I was very much in it because at that point the vehicle was so I could perform still. And I've never completely hung up the performing hat. Teaching is performing, judging is performing, podcasts are performing. I still love that side, but I don't need to put myself front and center anymore. There are jobs that I do that I am 100% off camera, and I love it. You might see me in a behind the scenes clip. And there are jobs that I do. I still get put forward for commercials. I still do commercials. I did a commercial this year. I did a commercial last year where I'm performing. I'm on camera. And listen, if the job came along that was right for me, I would still perform. For me, it has to be of a certain level and it has to make sense to my brand. I performed with Anastacia. That makes sense to my brand. I performed with Adam Lambert. I remember saying to you, as you were my manager at the time, I was like, I've got to do this audition. It's so on brand. Like, it's Adam Lambert. He's like a glam vampire man. I'm like, come on. It's like, you've got to let me do this. And then I booked it, and it was, on brand. I didn't then go to lots of other auditions for other artists. I'm always open-minded. I think I'm getting past the performing stage. But But who knows, if someone was to offer me a part in a Netflix drama where I'm like a prison-y kind of choreographer who gets sent to prison, I might take that role.
Can I ask you, how, particularly early in your choreography career, how did you go about like commanding that respect that a choreographer usually holds? So obviously most choreographers tend to do their dance career and then become a choreographer, so they're like much older than their casts. For you, I imagine your cast were probably your age, some of them probably older than you at that point. So where now obviously you're going to command that on respect. In those early days, how were you managing that? How were you getting given that authority?
It's awful. I was a little tyrant.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely, you know, and I see it in other people, and I've seen it in myself. I have mellowed. I don't have to work so hard to get that respect. My rehearsal room now is much more of a generous. It's less of a dictatorship. It's much more of a collaboration and a working towards. Whereas in the early days, I definitely had to. No, I didn't do it intentionally, but also I think I'd learned from, the kind of choreographer trope that you see on television, that it was all fierce and fabulous and again and again and again. And when we did Got to Dance, I got everybody to do the group number one at a time, over and over again. So that we're doing a group number, so everyone's like trying to do cannons, like twitch, twitch, but without the rest of the group. And I'm like, again. So I think, I bullied my way into command in the early days, and now I can, just walk into the room with a smile and let's get creative.
It's interesting because when I think back to my choreography career, it was almost the same sort of feeling, because I think if you start young, there is this thing from the dancers, as much as they will probably never admit it, but they are probably jealous a little bit that you're in that authority position, and they're like, well, who is this person to sort of to say this? I think when I look back at my career, and I'm saying this because perhaps maybe this might be the same with you, there is a little bit of insecurity of thinking whether they will listen to what I've got to say. They will take me seriously as being in charge. Do you think you had to be stricter at the start because of that? And then now, when you walk in now, the dancers, they know who you are. They're going to respect. You're represented by a great agency. There's at the very start, when it's just you, there's less for the dancers to. There's no. It's like you haven't got as much leverage, when you've got a representation, you then they're not just behaving for you, they're behaving for us back in the day and now mass as well. Do you think it was a little bit of insecurity on your side as well, or just not?
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, to be honest, it wasn't a problem. It was, I never had a problem commanding the studio. That doesn't mean to sound as arrogant as it comes across, but yeah. I've never struggled with finding my voice. I've never struggled with getting the job done. But if I feel how I've changed, I can feel more of a old school vibe.
Yes.
Let's do this. And I just don't work. I work in a much more fun. It's only rock and roll. Do you know what I mean? How I feel about it today is, listen, depends on the client. I might not be like that if I have a huge client breathing down my neck. I might be less collaborative and I might be more old school. But I mean, 100% insecurity and inexperience. I used to find that even with my teaching, I would over dance, and it was actually I was being assessed at bodywork college, and Janet said to me, you don't have to dance all the time. Your job is to let that. I was like, oh yeah, hadn't even thought about that I was working as hard as the dancers, and actually an experienced teacher can step back. Same thing with an experienced choreographer, can learn when to delegate, can learn when to push, can learn when to step back, all of those things. And that just comes less about insecurity and more about just actual experience on the job and what gets the job done the best.
Diving into classes, just starting to touch on that, I'd love to get your philosophy on like what teaching means to you. I feel like there's like two types of choreographers. Some see the educating part as part of their role as a choreographer, where it's like, actually, that's where I go to scout talent, educate them in my style, ready for jobs. And then there's other people who see them as two very separate roles. I'm a choreographer and then I'm a teacher. How do you view that? How does that present for you?
Yeah, for me, everything that I do is like part of the big soup pot of my career, and they all benefit each other. And teaching, I mean, I still, yes, it is about, for me, it's even less about the style. It's more about getting to know people, getting to know their work ethos. And I have a list in my phone today of talent that I meet through class that I'm like, oh yeah, like this person. I may never see them again. I want to have their details. You know, I can go straight to the agency and just book agency dancers for any job that I want. I will always go to my own list of my talent first, because they're the people I have experienced, you know, and that for me is about nurturing relationships, but also seeing how somebody works in their own space. And they link, you know, no, I don't use class choreography for jobs, but I do know how to command a room in a job because I know how to command a room in a rehearsal. And just this, for me, it's so part of, it's all linked in.
The classes were a big factor for our relationship as well. Let's go back then. And I remember, because how long did we manage you for? Was it 8, 9, 10 years?
Like, at least, yeah, I think 10. It felt like 20.
It felt like forever. But at the very start, you were managed originally by what were they called? Accelerate. Kay, who now, I don't know if you see, but Kay is smashing it. he's got into like events and he does the biggest events ever. But at the time, you were being managed by Kay. You weren't quite happy, it seemed. We don't need to delve into that unless you want to delve into it. And I remember you emailed us, or somehow we got talking.
Yeah.
And our thing at the time, because we had lots of work on, but we didn't really have enough work for another choreographer at that point. But we knew where we were going, that we would. I was always intending to somehow sort of disappear and just keep pushing and pushing and pushing, which I eventually did. I got to, Latin America and did all my TV stuff, which then gave you much more opportunity. But at the start, we saw, Christina teaches. This could be good because we have classes and we're always needing people to cover our classes. But what we could do is give her own class within Rudai. And that was the first ever idea of, God, we could have other teachers teaching for us. And you were our first ever teacher out of me and Charlotte. And I remember at the time being very wary of that, because it was like, well, me and Charlotte have been so successful. Now we're opening it up to somebody else. Tell us about those early years, and then just tell us about the Rudai years. Because for me, you went like that over a long. It was a long period of time, and it wasn't straight up. I can tell you that, but it was always going in the right direction.
Yeah, and you know what? It's given me a warm, nostalgic glow. Genuinely thinking about the early days, like A, it's ages ago, and B, like some memories there. And, so pre the Rudai days, I was teaching in LA Fitnesses. I had my dance company and we'd done Got to Dance. And I was generating lots of people. Classes were really busy, but I wasn't a Pineapple. And it was all my own structure. And I had, what had happened is I'd emailed out, one day I just decided I'm a choreographer. And I'd emailed out to a number of agents, and Kay from Accelerate got back to me pretty much straight away. You didn't. You slept on it, which is what Charlotte used to always say. She used to say, listen, we slept on it. And by the time you guys got back to me, I was already working with Kay. So I was like,
damn.
So, but I had already worked for you guys as a dancer. I'd done the Schwarzkopf hair tour with Charlotte, and I loved you as an agency. So really, that's where I wanted to be, which is why there was no big drama with Kay and I. I just wanted to come over, and I took that opportunity. And yeah, I came over to you as a teacher because obviously I'd already built my classes, and I used to come to your classes, to yours and Charlotte's at Pineapple. So there was like a natural progression into me having my own classes for the agency. And I knew what I was kind of getting myself in for. I could see that Rudai was kind of very much a family business. And I was like, you know, the little boy who lives down the street who you get in to like sweep the floors. But with doing that, there's always potential to maybe run the shop one day, you know.
Yes,
And that's how it was. You know, I was guided by you and Charlotte in branding and in how to just present myself, but also what not to do. And I continued growing my classes. And then obviously if jobs came in through the agency, even as a dancer, I would be kind of top of the list because I was within the family business. And then if jobs came through that you guys couldn't take for whatever reason, I could come in and assist. So there was the stuff that already existed as Rudai, and then there was the clients I already had that then I would bring in and I would say, can you manage this? And so it became this cohesion of both our worlds. And then that continued on for a gazillion years.
I'd love to get the story of then, obviously at this point you've now signed with Rudai, you're managed by them. How did that then grow to you becoming like what I would describe the face of the company? I was saying to Stuart yesterday when we were planning this, I was coming through college in sort of like 2018, 2019, when obviously like yourself and Brendan were doing everything out there. And at that point in time, I actually thought that it was you and Brendan who ran the agency, which I don't know if you've ever had that from anyone else thinking that. I was saying,
I would have loved that at the time. I tell you, I would have loved it. Please.
Yeah, I was saying to Stuart yesterday, I don't know if there was even something, whether he did it subconsciously, like where in original Rudai, he and Charlotte were the face.
Yeah.
The face then became you and Brendan later on. How did that journey present for you, rising up and becoming essentially the face of the company?
Of Love Rudai, should I say, at that
Yes.
point? It was Love Rudai.
I mean, I guess that's a really good starting point, is that by that point, Charlotte had moved on. So that initial nuclear family had divided. And Stu and I stayed, and we pulled it back together and redeveloped and let's be honest, classes, you know, because the thing that was the poster child was the classes, and I was running successful classes. I mean, Stuart, you were still teaching.
I was still teaching, but I could see my time was coming, and your popularity was building. So I was just like, right, well, I'm not gonna flog a dead horse. I will support the thing that is going in the right direction.
But yeah, I mean, I had someone literally say it to me 2 days ago, like, oh, didn't she used to run Rudai? It's like, no, but I know what you mean. Yeah,
I suppose Serena was a big thing for you, wasn't she?
Love of my life.
As an agent.
Just straight up love of my life.
You've just outed Serena as a lesbian, and her husband's probably thinking, what the fuck?
She's not, unfortunately. No, I'm joking. But yes, I was thinking about Serena this morning, and I was thinking about the journey. I mean, yes, so Serena came in as head agent, and we just had such an amazing working relationship. You know, she loved getting work for me, and I loved working for the jobs that she got for me, and we had a really good cohesion. So, I mean, that was a huge part of the later part of Love Rudai was our working relationship. I mean, she's an absolute star.
And of course, go on, babe.
I was going to say, I'd love to dive into that a bit more with Serena. For you, what is it that like makes up that perfect agent to collaborate with you? What are those qualities that you look for and would celebrate?
So the thing about Serena, and Stu used to always say this, Stu used to be like, she loves getting work for you because you're really grateful, because you don't take it for granted. I would always be like, Serena, this is amazing. And I would always, you know, after an audition, I would always check in and be like, Serena, I think I messed it up, or I think I aced it. Thank you so much for the audition. This is exciting. I'm going to do this. and it felt collaborative, you know. So I would maybe bring a job to her, or a job would come in, and then she would be able to extend it and get dancers on the job or whatever. And so then there was an exciting collaboration element, and she knows me, and there would be easy communication, but there was definitely that sort of mutual respect, but enjoyment of, she knew I liked work, and I knew she liked to get me work, and obviously there's a paycheck at the end of it for everybody. Happy days.
Our next question, I'm gonna read out the question, but I will put something with it as well. It says, her sexuality has been a major part of her career and journey. Let's discuss.
I mean, question mark, has it? Has it?
Well, what it is you were, it felt like you were gay. Yeah, you were a lesbian.
No one else was gay.
Before anyone else was gay. Which I can hear all the lesbians and gays going, oh, what you on about? But you were, you know, when you came out, as in not that when you came out the closet, but when you suddenly you got to dance and started to get things, it was obvious that you were gay, and it was well, you know, everybody else was sort of blonde and, you know, this in a box.
Stu,
yeah,
you can be blonde and gay.
Okay. Well, I mean,
no, but I was out. I wasn't hiding it. I wasn't.
No, you weren't.
I was very much like, "Hey, I'm a gay woman." So, like, yeah. I'm pulling your leg. But yes, I was out.
And this was at a point where it wasn't cool for that to be. It wasn't. I mean, when I say it wasn't cool, it just wasn't
celebrated.
It wasn't celebrated. It wasn't the main thing. It wasn't, you know. And I think that was one of the big things behind you, because when you, you know, for me, the success of your classes, success of your brand is also the community that you created with that. And because of how different you were, you had people who looked up to you, who I think became lesbians because of you, who changed their hair. It
doesn't work that way, but yeah.
And became, you know, let's say looking like lesbians, or the lesbian type at the time, the Christina Andrea look. You know, it was such, you were, you know, when we look now at how many choreographers, how many people there are out there, girls especially, because I think there's always been obviously gay guys, but you were the absolute star in my eyes. Maybe there might, you know, you might go, no, actually there was this person, that person, but I don't remember that. It's sort of, I've kind of just sort of gabbled there without sort of asking any questions. But the next question was, how does it feel different representing the LGBTQ sort of thing than when you first started? Because now obviously It's massively different, but you were doing it. You were a trailblazer.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, you're like, where do I start there? But yes, okay. So the first thing, when I went to Erdang in first year, there was the rumor there was a lesbian in our year, and I was like, can't wait to meet her, and it was me. And it was like, it was a thing. And I had to educate people that, like, hey, I don't fancy all girls. The people I fancy are girls. So you're safe. I'm not like a sexual deviant, and I'm not coming for you in the changing rooms. Like, sort your lives out. So there was definitely an element of, like, back in the day. I mean, yeah, I also did feel that I was special and different in a way that made me quite fabulous, which I'm not special and different these days. That is the difference, is that it's not really a thing anymore. People date who they want to date, and there are loads of lesbians and bisexuals and people that wouldn't even identify with a label, that have a partner who is female. Like, it's just not really a thing. There's so many, it's just, you don't even ask the question anymore. It's just like, it's relevant and it's not relevant. Whereas definitely when I first started out, I was out very much so. I've always been kind of like, I'm always playful with it. I think it's fun. And I have definitely had people who came to my class and still who say thank you for being a gay, you know, a lesbian representation. It's still really important that how comfortable you are with that and how proud you are of that. And years and years ago, I did a diva front cover. It was so funny because the front cover was like lesbian choreographer who's changing the face of modern dance, and then the little caption next to it was like, "Why are there so many lesbians on death row?" And it was like, oh God. But I'd done this article, and I had people that came to class because of that, you know. So I don't always know the reach that I'm having, but I have always been really open with my sexuality. And yes, I mean, there's definitely even today, my class can sometimes feel like an episode of The L Word. Like, it is queer-tastic. It is so queer-centric, the people that I attract, because I guess like attracts like. And I love that. It's so important. I love that community, you know, community and empowerment is so much part of my ethos. And of course, that goes to the classes. That's where community starts, and elevating queerness. Because for me, queerness is, you know, we gay people, me as a gay person, I was so aware of how I wanted to present myself. Maybe that's why my branding is so brandy, because I wasn't comfortable in a dress and heels. So I had to really think from early on, how do I want to be? You know, I've got my shorts on, I've got my socks and my slip, you know, I'm comfortable. This is me. But I didn't get up this morning and just put on like my woman outfit, because I always felt uncomfortable like that. I mean, I guess that's actually more of a gender thing than it is a sexuality thing. But that has always been a big part of what I do. And I definitely have found, I don't know necessarily in booking choreography jobs that it's been relevant, but in the people that are attracted to my brand and my ethos and how I work and how I coach and how I teach, it's definitely been important.
I've always said, if I was going to come back as something else, I'd come back as a lesbian, and then I'd just hang in the girls' changing rooms all day, like talking to other girls.
That's what we do. That's what we do.
Anyway, Bailey, take over, otherwise I can get yourself in trouble.
I'd like to get your thoughts on how the actual work we see now presented in the industry has changed as well. Obviously, when you were coming out, it would have been probably surprising to see anything on stage, on camera, that weren't like a straight relationship. Whereas now you've got so much to look at that is presenting all sides, all angles. Yeah. How does that feel for you in this present day, finally being able to see that actually I can go and see things that represent me, that feel like what I would like to see? There's more range. But also, how's that journey been for you, like working in an industry that I guess when you were first coming out, not that it weren't accepted, but it weren't presented, to now getting to a place where it is presented? How's that journey felt through your career?
Yeah, it's still big. You know, I'm watching I Kissed a Girl on, it's not a dance show, but it's like Gay Love Island. I'm watching it on BBC at the moment, and I get tearful watching it because it's gay love, and they're in bed snuggling, and I just think, I never seen this. It's like, wow, I still get emotional now to be able to see gay people fall in love with each other. It's huge. It's a slight side topic, but it's still relevant. And
hang on, are you saying there's a TV channel with two women?
Not too many, loads of women. I'll tell you about it afterwards.
All right, okay, brilliant.
It's mainstream, Stu. It's mainstream.
All right.
But I think previously it would have been fetishized, or it was to be shocking. You know, I grew up, my gay awakening was the tattoo video for All the Things She Said, which was the two schoolgirls who it turns out weren't even gay, snogging in the rain. And I was like, oh, feelings. You know, but that was that was for the man. You know, that wasn't a queer love story. And yeah, it's changed, and it's so important. And I've got to be honest, I sometimes still feel like, am I pushing the gay agenda? And it's like, there is no gay agenda, and no, you're not. Like, all stories should be celebrated, not just tolerated. And yeah, there's, you know, so much more inclusivity, and we get pop stars who now have the appropriate gender to dance with. You know, people like Steps. H from Steps has a male dancer to dance with. That's beautiful, because back in the day he had to bump and grind with a woman, and it's like, it's so important to have representation. Yeah, so it's definitely changed. I mean, I remember at college, Dean did a piece. We did a Janet Jackson piece, and I was partnered up with Kendra from Bird Gang, and because we were in the same year at college, and it was like, there's a lesbian number. It was all straight people, and then Kendra's not gay, but she got to be my partner. Lucky Kendra. And there was this thing where we went like bam, 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 kiss, and it was shocking. Everyone was like, oh, there's a lesbian kiss in the. It just was like a peck on the lips, but it was like, okay, we're doing it. We're going for representation, and that was quite a while ago. But we're seeing much more of it. It's being celebrated. Like I said, it's not about being tolerated. It's like love comes in all forms, and therefore it should be in all art.
What do you think the other end of the scale? In recent years, you've had Sam Smith, and then Eurovision recently with Ollie. I was going to say Ollie Muir's, Ollie Alexander. Ollie Alexander, where you've got, I suppose, over-sexualization of sort of gay couples on stage. From a straight person's point of view, I've heard a lot of straight people say, "Oh, that was too much. It was too much. It was too, they didn't want their kids to see it. Obviously, Eurovision is meant to be sort of family orientated." Do you think sometimes it goes too far, or do you think no, just let them do their thing, and as long as there's kind of, I suppose, age restrictions, or what's your feeling, or do you have any feeling? Does it, it might not get to you as a gay person, to the straight sort of world. At the moment we're hearing and seeing a lot of the people's opinions are, oh, it's too much. Sam Smith, for example, or the recent Eurovision. What's your opinions on that?
I just think, let's go back to the straight people that have been too much. Let's go back to the language Madonna. That is, just anybody. The straight people have been too much for years, and it's okay. And you can talk about doing this and that to your woman, or you can get your hose and your whatever. It's like, that's a ridiculous argument. And it's
so do you think it will just balance itself out over a period of time? Because obviously they're doing.
Not about,
there is a lot.
There is not about. Sorry, Stu. For me, it's not about.
I was just going to finish. It feels that it is trying to shock, but what you're saying is if we take it back to Madonna, for example. I mean, she had a sex book out, didn't she? Go on.
Yeah, I just think. I mean, individual artists will push their own. Their art will be different.
Yeah.
So it doesn't really matter if it's a straight artist or a gay artist or a non-binary artist or a trans artist. Some will want to be more explicit and sexual, and some will want to be more chilled.
Yeah.
Does sexuality come into it? It's not really relevant. It's still, it shouldn't be a problem, because we have straight identifying people saying and have been doing very explicit sexual things and aggressive things and violent things for centuries. So why are we now like, oh, let the gays be gay, but not too gay? Come on now. No, that's not an argument for me.
Yeah. That's interesting, isn't it, Bailey? Because, I mean, as performers, we're very much on the sort of, we support everything. Obviously, as straight people, I have preferences to what I want to watch, kind of thing. But it's this kind of mainstream, because it's the first time where you had a lot of furore over Sam Smith. It seemed to ride the wave, and it was like, well, that's Sam Smith. With the Eurovision, it's the first time where I've sort of heard, I suppose, normal people saying, "Oh, we're not very happy about that," kind of thing. But what you're saying is, well, look, it's just, that's what it is, and it will kind of, if they want to keep pushing it, they'll either be successful with it or not, and then they'll keep pushing or not keep pushing.
I just think, I mean, who are normal people? And there's, the people who want to talk, they'll talk about anything. It's like politics. It's like, listen, anybody who's got a mouth can have an opinion. Everyone's got opinions. It's not, who cares? I'm really not interested in what normal people say. I just think
when I say normal, I suppose non-entertainment civilians.
Yeah, I mean, my mum said she didn't like the Black Lives Matter piece that
Diversity.
Diversity did, because Britain's Got Talent is a family show, and that was a political statement. And I was like, interesting. I don't agree. I think it was a really important statement. But isn't it interesting that we can have different opinions? We don't have to fall out about it. I just thought, I thought, and what you're saying, Stuart, I hear it. You know, should we be showing over-sexualized content full stop on certain times of television? It doesn't matter if it's gay or straight or whatever, but sexualization, yeah, I hear that as an argument in general. Same thing with political statements. But then it comes down to personal politics and personal preference, and everybody is going to have an opinion, and that's why we talk about it, and that's why it's entertainment. So,
and I guess it's where we're at in the world as well. We're at a point in the world where everything seems to be rebelling, everything seems to be going like that, where 5-10 years ago, if you look, there wasn't so much trouble in the world, there wasn't, you know, people having so much opinions and it's just interesting because I watched that Ollie Alexander, and I thought, well, would we, you know, if you had two women kissing, because I had to. Yeah,
we had Madonna kissed Britney and Christina 10 years ago. It's old.
Yeah. See, I love that.
Woo! Exactly.
I love that. I suppose it comes down to people's preference, isn't it? You know,
it's their prejudice.
Yeah,
it's prejudice. The fact that is shocking. That's not shocking. Like the fact that people even think that is something to comment on says a lot about where we're at, and actually why visibility is still important. That shouldn't be shocking.
Yeah. Do you think people sometimes do it to push their work, for example? You know, what am I trying to say here? Like, it worked when you came out as a choreographer. It was like you didn't need to go any more shocking or being any more lesbian as you were, because at the time it was like, well, oh my God, it's a lesbian who's working and who doesn't care. Like, do you think we've got to that point where people don't care, so they are thinking, right, fuck it, we're gonna have to kill someone, we're gonna have to do something to actually get noticed, or is it just, do you think, no, that's their artistic thing?
I mean, that's why I literally, when you first brought up sexuality, I said, like, is it even relevant? Because I'm not a lesbian choreographer. I'm a choreographer who's gay, you know, and I don't just choreograph ladies together. Like, that's never really been my vibe. Like, I don't think I've ever choreographed a lesbian kiss into anything. It's not that don't think it's important, but it's never been relevant in my work. Yeah. And down to whether people use shock tactics to, maybe. I mean, it's not how I work, but I can't personally comment on someone's driving force. You know, are they genuinely interested in exploring gender and sexuality, or are they trying to shock? That's down to the individual. Does it matter? I don't know.
Yeah, we the reason we did sort of say all this is because I think in 5 years' time, we probably won't be having these conversations with people, because it will be so, you know, there's so many choreographers out there now, and there's so much platform for LGBT choreographer. You look at the success of Chris Tendai, for example. But with you were the start of it. Do you know what I mean? So this is why I feel like we had to talk about it, and we had, you know, because you have been such an influence, in my eyes, on the gay scene within the dance sort of world, the UK commercial dance world. However, I can hear it. Maybe the next time we do a podcast together, perhaps we won't mention it. Do you know what I mean? Unless you've turned straight. If you turn straight, we'll talk about that. But let's move on. I've got here from Love Rudai to Mass. How was the experience of not being represented for a period? So I had this idea that I was going to retire. I kind of did, and then Bailey came out of the woodwork and sort of inspired me to work again. But there was a period of time where you know, I had to say to you, look, you're free to go, basically. You know, there's not going to be any more from us. I'm finishing. Serena's going to get another job, and you were kind of, I suppose, put out into the wilderness, but you took time. You didn't just jump straight away. I was expecting within a week, knowing you, that you would have been signed and blah, 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 but you took a long time, or it felt like a long time. Perhaps it was only maybe half a year or a bit longer, I don't know. But tell us about that period, and what then made you make the decision of joining MASS.
Mm-hmm. I mean, let's contextualize it as well. We're in the middle of a pandemic, so you know, it was a time, and like I said about my relationship with Serena, we had such a good working relationship. There was this sort of triad, and I never wanted necessarily to stop working with Serena. I think if I was honest, I felt like it was time for me to have a change, but I was loyal and I would never have left. So I think it was really important that what came about was that you decided to, you know, retire the business and step away, which was like, okay, interesting. You know, I remember saying to you, like, thank you, Stu, for your honesty. Like, you don't have to do this anymore. Like, it was a rough time during the pandemic. Let's all just, with love, go our separate ways. And for me, it felt a little bit like going from one relationship. I didn't want to go straight to another relationship. And also, we're in a pandemic. I'm thinking, I don't even know if there's an industry left. I don't know I can't guarantee what we're going into. And as you said earlier, like, I was so the face of Love Rudai that it felt for me like I needed to, and this is not meant in a negative way, but I needed to almost shake that off before I could be valid to somebody else. And maybe that's my stuff. I didn't try, so I don't know. Nobody said to me, you're too Rudai. So no, but I just wanted to breathe on it. And I'd never been self-managed. So I was like, ooh, I wonder what we do here. And it probably was between 6 months to a year. And it was lonely, you know, and I mean, it was lonely because it was the pandemic. So everyone was lonely. But one thing that I'd always loved was having the team. You know, I could pop into the agency if I wanted. I could get on the phone to Serena. I'm feeling this way. Let's do this. Da, 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 da. You know, you, Stu, were always, whenever I was doing any mentoring or anything, you'd always back me. Anything that I bought 50%, you would bring 50% too. I had a team. And I don't really like dealing with financials. That's not my bag. I'm like a show up, do the job. I don't want to talk about the I's and the T's and the money stuff. So I was sort of, things were coming in and I was like, maybe my day rate is this. I can do it for this. And I just was like, I remember I went for dinner with Serena one night and she was like, you need to get management. And I was like, oh God, I do, don't I? And she was like, yeah, like, just, it's time to get back out there. You know, a little bit like a relationship. It's time to get back out there. And with MASS, you know, they're an amazing agency. And, but the thing for me was that I didn't have really connections with other agencies because I'd been with Rudai for so long. So in some ways I felt like my loyalty was like a negative. I was like, oh, if I'd have been less loyal and I'd had more connections with other agencies, I would have felt more organic to jump ship. And then I was looking on the agencies and I saw that Sarah Lyons was at MASS, and I was like, oh, that's interesting, because she used to be with Mark Summers and I used to be with Mark Summers, and she was one of my agents back in the day. And I'd seen her on the tube. She actually lives around near me. I'd seen her on the tube maybe like a year before, and I'd sat opposite her and I'd said hi, and oh, hi, you know, and I'd seen her in auditions over the years. You know, it was one of those people that I, you know, obviously everyone knows who she is. So, but I'd kind of kept little inklings of connection. And I was like, that's interesting. I have a connection there already. Somebody who knows me, that kind of makes sense. And I emailed, and I was really lucky to get an email straight back. I know how hard it is to get an email back from an agent, especially like an agent of that level. And she said, oh, babe, what a blast from the past. It's lovely to hear from you. Let's jump on a call. and we jumped on a Zoom call, and I met Ian, and we had a chat, and I kind of thought I was pimping myself out, and by the end they said, so let us know, let us know if you'd like to join. And I was like, oh, the answer is yes. I went, I will let you know. And I was
Good,
like,
good. I'm glad you didn't. I'm glad you didn't say yes straight away.
I was like 5, 4. Hi, good morning. And apparently they'd said that they were like, we're cool. Why hasn't she emailed us yet? And it was like I was literally just counting down the hours to say yes, please, because I wanted a family again. I wanted to get back that, to have a relationship and to have a different working relationship, and to, my old relationship wasn't an option at that point. So, we'd all gone our separate ways. So it was the perfect time.
Did you email
on.
anybody else?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
And it wasn't.
Did you get good no, did you have options, or was it once you knew mass was interested?
I didn't email that many. I emailed Jerry at Coots, and he was like, oh, I've got your stuff, but I don't manage. He's like, I just give give the jobs out to people that I know, but I don't manage. And I was like, oh, that's a shame. But, and then he'd put me up for a few things, because I knew Jerry through doing Adam Lambert. So again, I was only interested in people that I already had some sort of connection with. I didn't, there's more agents that I didn't. I only emailed 2. The other one I emailed was, oh my God, I can't remember their names, but it was Ben Totti. Is that BAM or Boss or one of those? Because Ben Totti was one of my very first agents when I left college. He represented me for musical theatre.
Box Management.
Mm-hmm. He was with Bronya Buchanan back in the day, and I was very momentarily signed with them. They weren't looking for choreographers. But so again, it was someone I was like, oh, interesting. I've already got a connection with them. But when the mass thing kind of came, I was like, that's where I want to be. That's one of the top agents. Let's go for it.
My question next will be, what does management mean for you? And I want to root it in that period where you're first having those conversations with mass. What is it that you're looking for? What have you learned from the time with Rude Eye that you're like, I definitely need this, and this? Also, is the stuff you're going with from Rude Eye, I've had that and I don't want this, and this? What exactly are you looking for in that next moment at that point?
For me, management is about your team. Your team, it's like me on my own, and then there's me with my team. It's a financial thing. It's about, they know how to book you out. They know how to say, this is her rate, and to charge for stuff like prep days and days in the rehearsal and stuff that I would go, oh, I'll do it. Don't worry, I'll do it at my own time. And stuff like that. So it's the people that just, they know everything about you and what you want, and then if stuff comes in, they know to put you forward for it. They also know how to market you, they know how to support you. And same, like I was saying about Stu, when I do my intensive, mass support me, and they offer their time and their guidance to be part of my creative projects as well. So yeah, it's that I'm looking for. And also an element of, this is still my career, don't tell me what to do. It's an element of freedom of trust me when I say this is an important thing for me to do, and to support if something comes in and I say it's not right. I had stuff with Serena where we'd get offered stuff and I'd be like, the way this communication's going, I don't want to do it. She'd be like, babes, you don't do it. I'm going to get you out of this. It's that. It's not having to be, like Stu used to always say to me, let me be the bad guy.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have to do that. You just show up and do the job. Let me be the bad guy. Let me be the one who's asking for the down payment. Let me be the one who talks contracts. So that's what management is for me. And also, management allows me access to certain dancers. Obviously, I can get whatever dancer I want, but I don't have to be on the email booking them. DMing people, are you free for a job? No, I just send my list to the agency and they sort that out. So yeah, I don't have to cross the T's and dot the I's. That's the management. Sometimes Ian talks, he does budgets, and I'm like, I don't know what you're saying, but it sounds great because it's a different language, and it's a language I'm not really interested in. So I'm like, yeah, that sounds good. Let's do it.
I'm personally interested in from the early days with Rude Eye. Obviously, you were always playing second fiddle to me and Charlotte. towards the end of Love Rudai, you were obviously the main, anything came in, it was always, can we get Christina on it first?
Yeah.
And then it would be Brendan, and then fucking hell, if I had to turn up, I'd be well gutted. But what you've come onto an agency, because you say Ian, who's Ian then? Because when I think mass, I think Christian.
Right. So mass movement and mass talent are under the same roof.
Yeah.
Mass talent is the talent agency.
Right.
So because there's conflict of interest of having the agent, the choreographer being the agent. So they're separate. So mass movement is Christian but mass talent. So Sarah and Ian, and we've got Bex as well now, who are the agents for mass talent. So they are the booking agent who gets all the talent in, and that's who manages me. How
does it feel? It's like you've gone from you've grown into one company and become the face of it, and now obviously you're at another company.
I'm a little fish. I'm at the bottom like that.
Yeah, and you're one of other choreographers. How does that feel at this point in your career? Or are you just like, well, okay, that's fine. I know what I can do, and I know what I am, so they'll get me those things. And
it's definitely humbling, but I think it's like the journey is this. Like I felt like I'd peaked, and I couldn't necessarily go any further in the lane that I was in, and I know I'm not the top choreographer. And how humbling to be like, to know that I'm up. It's very exciting. The other choreographers that are signed by mass, I'm against. Am I against? No, because nobody is me. Like the jobs that come in that are perfect for me are not perfect for somebody else. But there are lots of great choreographers, and I just feel grateful to be in that mix. Ultimately, my relationship with my agent is an individual relationship. We don't go in as all the choreographers, and we don't fist fight for jobs. It's like we all have our single track with our agent, and that still feels like a personal thing. I know that there are other choreographers, but I'm not really aware of them because my relationship with my agents and the agency feels very like singular anyway.
That's an interesting thought. Imagine if it was like a fist fight. As a straight skinhead, as a choreographer, I would have cleaned up. Like, yes, that would have been great. It's amazing. It's I always had a worry about you because I thought, are we just leaving her in the lurch kind of thing? But I always knew deep down that you were strong enough. You would find your way. You'd be all right. At some point, I'm sure you'll get signed to someone. And then when you did the right thing. You rang me up beforehand and warned me that this was going to be, the news of it would be coming out. And at the time, I was just very, very I was just really glad that you weren't going to be dipping down, if you get what I mean, because, coming on to mass, you've gone on to this higher level now. And perhaps you have to stop. It's like any company, you have to start at the bottom again. But you're starting at a much higher level as a person, as a choreographer. It was just it's great. It's great to see, that you didn't just fade, because I would have felt like, oh, fucking
for me
hell.
Too. But I mean, there was a period of time for all of us, and Serena was the first one of us. I think before you even came back, Serena and I had looked into options about starting something together, and that didn't happen time-wise. But Serena was the first to get her dream job.
Yes.
Serena is now a talent agent at Curtis Brown. Like she's living the life, and I was like, Have you been there?
Have you been?
I haven't.
Oh my God! I went the night we met. When we went for dinner a few months ago. I met Serena at her office. I was like, fucking hell, I can't believe the office she was working in with us in Crouch End. Compared to now, I was like, bloody hell, this is like, their accounts department, right, is bigger than, well, their accounts department was bigger than the whole of Sappho, if you get what I mean, of the whole of the offices where we were at before. It's amazing. So you know, it's great that both of you have gone on.
And that's but it took time. Like that didn't happen overnight.
No.
And I remember going, I really want that. I want that feeling, like, selfishly, but like, it's fine to be selfish, but I want that feeling for myself. I want that this makes sense feeling. And it took a bit of time. And then when I signed with Mass, I was like, I've got that makes sense for me. That's my next step. And so, you know, we all ended up all right in the end. And I think change has to happen. Change is vital. But when you've got something that's good, like, why are you going to change it? So sometimes it's like it takes a tectonic shift for everybody to realign.
Yeah. We're not far off from finishing. It would be rude of us, I think, not to ask about your philosophy and your just how you live your life, your personal. I know from you personally that your personal development is a big thing for you, your philosophy in life. Tell us about that. How do you live your life? Why are you so chilled? You know, how are you able to handle these kind of, you know, peaks and troughs and that?
I mean, I don't know. I'm glad I come across chilled, but, you know, I try and strip back everything to be as authentic and as honest with myself, and from a place of, and that can be, and that's in my physical world as well. You know, I don't drink, I don't eat animal products, I love sleeping, I exercise. I try and get back to as close to cave person without eating dead animals, to a really like organic state. And from that grounding, I feel like I can then go out into the world. And so for me, it's been about just shaking off a lot of stuff, you know, shaking off a lot of, I want to say preconceptions, but I mean, a lot of it's been an unlearning, very much a simplifying. You know, I live, I guess at my heart, quite a simple life. And from that place, I feel like I'm not making any sense, but my philosophy is about authenticity and about truth and doing what feels good, not doing what anybody else wants to do. Like, and you talked about personal development. I don't actually like that term. I'm not really interested in a lot of hacks and affirmations and fake positivity. I have done a lot of that. I was massively into that world, and I nearly completely burnt out doing it. So actually, I've shaken off a lot of that stuff. I've done a lot of work on myself, and I continue. And so, what does work on myself look like? I'm always trying to be really honest with myself. I'm always trying to be honest if I've got feelings that come up, if I feel sad, if I feel jealous, if I feel any kind of way, I just try and be as close to honest with myself as I can be. And I always try to follow my bliss. I try to follow my bliss in work. I try and make sure, you know, and that doesn't necessarily mean shiny things. That for me, it means my work is a lot about connection, and it is a lot about elevation, and it is a lot about freeing, and it is a lot about it's not about the level of client. It's about that getting the light going on in someone's eyes. Now that can be a beginner, regular person off the street, or that can be a high level A-list celebrity. I'm good, like, across the board. It doesn't need to be a shiny work credit, as long as what I'm doing is like setting that light off in someone's eyes, is giving them that moment of going, I never knew I could feel that way. I never knew I could free myself. I never knew I could put two steps together. I didn't know I could fall in love with my body again. I didn't know ... So yeah, for me, that's what's important. It's important that it's kind of a holistic way to look at choreography, I guess. Like, I do a lot of coaching, I do a lot of judging. There's the thread that goes through it all is about like inspiring and freeing and allowing people to kind of live their truth. And by doing that, by living my truth, I feel like that's kind of my ethos. Does that make any sense?
Yeah, it makes total sense. Tying on to the end of that, I then want to ask you kind of what's next for you on a personal and professional level, but also how you're tying both of them together, as you started to touch on there. What are those aims for you? What is the impact you're wanting to create? What is that next level for you now?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely, the two areas that I would say I consciously want to go be more in at the moment is TV and film, and then I still love working with artists, and they're two that I've already worked in, and I really, and that's not necessarily getting 20 dancers to go goom, 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 goom. I do love that, but I feel like my skill set is very much personal, and I work quite a lot with singers who are going to do shows, and I coach them and I develop their movement. I have also worked with actors. I've worked with them on shoots and I've worked with them off shoots to get them ready for performances, for films, for TV, for musicals they're going into, where they just need, they're like, I'm going into the rehearsal room and I need to have something in the bank. And that is such a personal thing. That is so much about like nurturing and giving someone confidence and giving them the tools to then go forwards. That stuff really interests me. So I definitely would like to do more. You know, I'd love to be on set for a show and be the personal movement coach. 100% love that. And I do it already, but it's something that I love. And then the same thing kind of crosses over into the artists. You know, I still love pop music. I love it. And I like that world and the world of touring. Do I want to go on tour again? No, but I don't have to as a choreographer. You know, I love being able to coach somebody to the point where they're ready to fly. That's what I feel like. I feel like I'm like nursing the pigeons, and then I go, fly my pigeon, and that's what I'm good at. And so, but I love being on set and I love working with artists. So within, you know, my shiny version of that is to be doing that on films and TV series and to be doing it with artists. Yeah, that's what I would like. Please.
You can only give to others if you can give to yourself first. And it feels like you're at that point now where obviously we can never say that we've mastered ourselves, but, you know, because we're always work in progress. But it feels like you're at that point where you are so comfortable with yourself that you have that space to be able to give to others. Because I think earlier on in people's careers, when you're asked to do those type of jobs, you know, especially coaching celebrities or, you know, or having a closer relationship with an artist, it can be a struggle not to make it about yourself.
100%.
And what you can get from it, and oh my God, do you know that I'm coaching this person or I'm doing that with that? The fact that you've got to that point now where you're so comfortable with yourself, it feels like, you know, that is a natural progression for you to be able to give. It must be a joy to work with you.
Yeah,
if I was a celebrity.
No, it's like, yeah, it's great. No, I mean, but it's that thing. You can't be going. I've worked with people that I can't even talk about. It's so annoying. I would love to put some of the people I've worked with on my Instagram.
Yeah.
But the higher level you go, they don't necessarily want anyone knowing they've got a movement coach. I've got selfies in here that I'm like, if only I could share it. And I can't. That's part of the deal, is that I don't get to share those. And that's the thing with, as you said, you know, growing up a bit. I can't be in a session thinking, wonder I can get a selfie. That's not the point. That isn't the point of the session. The minute I do that, I take away everything that I've done in the session. And that is something you get with a little bit more maturity.
I learned that lesson with Paloma Faith, funny enough, because I had choreographed, they'd had a choreographer. Something went wrong, so then I took over the live versions of the choreography, and we did a couple of TV shows. And on one of them, I asked her, I said, can I get a photo of you and the dancers? And she was like, yeah. And then just as they all got together, I then got in. And she said, "Oh, you're an opportunist." And I mean, it was a really bitchy comment, if I have to, to say. And like at the time, it made me feel this small. But when I look back at it, my the only reason I was doing that was because I wanted to have a photo with the famous person and the dancers and tell everyone about it. So it takes a lot. It takes a big, you have to be very comfortable with yourself to get to the level you've got to where, like you say, you've probably got selfies of people. Next time we have dinner, I want to be looking at those selfies. Well, brilliant. Bailey, do you want to hit Serena with our signature final question?
Yes. So this is something we ask every guest. I love it as a way to round off an episode because it always feels like they kind of sum up their own episode through their answer. So the question is, if we put ourselves 30, 40, 50 years in the future, and imagine you're like announcing your retirement from the industry, and Variety magazine's going to pick it up and run it as a story, what would you like to see them saying in a piece that you'd feel like that really represents me, the impact I'd like to make, the legacy I'd like to leave behind? What there would feel like you?
I mean, that's as awful as the first question. I just feel, oh God. I feel
no pressure on this one, but you're being judged right now.
And also, every second that I don't say anything, everyone's like,
we can cut the out.
Blump straight to it. And look, I feel like my ethos is about bringing light everywhere that I go, and having a good time and making people shine. And I feel like it could just be like a list of people just saying how lovely I am and how much that I brought dance and movement into their lives that made them open up, and that could be across the board. I think that's kind of like what I bring. I think.
Oh, Christina,
it's a hard question. I don't know.
It's been so lovely I'm so happy we're still like. I feel like we're still as close as ever. It's often people think, and I know that some people will be probably when they see that you're being interviewed by us, they're going to be thinking, oh, I presumed they would have, there would have been a fallout or something would have happened. But it's lovely. It's amazing to see that you're still going, you're still pushing in the right direction. Thank you so much for being very truthful, very honest. I know some of the questions, obviously, as a LGBT, whatever it is, choreographer, I feel we do have to ask those kind of questions because you especially have been the leading person on that, I think. So I think people will be interested to hear those, even though you as a person are probably at the point where you're thinking, bloody hell, do I still have to talk about it? I think we still do. So I think it is still important. I
think I'm happy to talk because I always I do want to be. I'm a visible gay person. Yeah. Am I a gay choreographer? Like, are you a straight choreographer for the straights? Like, there is an element where it's like, do you ask the straight people about their straight life? And if you don't. Then why don't you? Because so I do have a bit of a, but I also, because I'm visible, I'm happy to talk about it. I love talking about all things gay, but does it affect my career? Does it is it relevant who I'm in a romantic relationship with? Possibly not, unless we're also talking about the straight relationships. But, I love to talk about all things gay and fabulous because that's what I am.
Well, that's a lesson for us. But it's also, I think, a few more years down the road, let's say we get you on for season 5 or whatever, we probably wouldn't talk about it then because we've had that conversation, and another few more years, I thankfully we are at that point in the world where it is becoming completely normal, and it's not even though we've put a large portion of this podcast about it, has become now the norm. It's the same with, I suppose, racism nowadays. We would be shocked if we actually saw, even though obviously it still happens, but blatant racism now is very far, few between. In my view, I can't, I don't see people calling people this or that. And it's the same with homophobia. I'm sure you would definitely say it's nowhere near where it needs to be. But from a straight person's point of view, it seems now that we're at the point where, we're just getting to that point now where everyone seems to just, whatever you want to be, that's great, cool. We love you.
And I'd say like in London, yes, but it's still illegal in places around the world. So of course we're not there yet.
Yeah.
And that is the reason why we have to speak up. It's the reason why we have Pride. Pride is a protest. If there's things with women's rights that are going backwards, there's always the opportunity that things are going backwards around any of these things. So it's still important. The conversations are still important.
Yeah. Yeah. Is there anything you would like to plug, or where can we follow you? Go for it.
You can find me on Instagram. I'm at I am Christina Andrea. I still upload my stuff to YouTube. It's Christina Andrea. I'm not on TikTok. And you can find me at Basin at Pineapple teaching weekly classes. That's
such an age thing that you're not on TikTok, because I've got a TikTok account, but I don't do anything. I don't even look at it. Where Bailey is like, no, TikTok is the thing. This is where we have to focus.
I know it's the thing. Brendan said to me about 5 or 6 years ago, TikTok's the thing. And I just was like, Brendan, I'm out of energy. I don't care. I don't care if it's the thing and I could become a TikToker. I don't want to be one. Let's leave that for the youth of tomorrow. I will do my thing in the sort of medium old school way, and I'm happy with that. So yeah, no, that's not for me. But yeah, I'm on Insta and I'm on I'm at Basin Pineapple.
We'll put the links somewhere down below, and that. Bailey, do you want to give your last thoughts and then see us out?
Yeah. So first of all, I want to say thank you so much to you, Christina, for coming on and having this conversation. It's been great to actually get to speak with you. Obviously, I've heard so much from Stu over the years working with him, but we've never really spoken. So it's been really nice to get your energy. I always find myself kind of like making a summary of the person when I wrap these up, which for yourself, the shining word for me is something you said earlier, which is connection. I feel like that summarizes everything you've spoken about here in the way you're interacting with dancers, in your relationship with Serena, your relationship now with Mass. It's like everything for you is reliant on that connection, and therefore the impact through that connection. And I think sometimes impact can be taken in a way of like, oh, you're making people be something else through their impact. But what's beautiful about you is it's that true, pure form of impact that actually you're just inspiring people to be themselves, which I think is such a great quality. So yeah, thank you so much for this conversation. There's so much value for anyone watching to take away. So before we leave off, I'm going to ask anyone watching, treat us with a subscribe to the channel, give us a like on the video, turn your notification bell, and drop us a comment down below. Let us know what you thought of this episode. But most importantly, go along, follow Christina, and go and attend some of her classes. The value there, you'll get nothing like it. Thank you, Christina. Thank you, everyone watching, and I will see you next week.
Awesome. And just before we do go, just if you haven't checked out our other guest episodes from season 1, Ian Bannum, and also the big one, Dax O'Callaghan, has also part 1 and part 2 is out there now. So don't forget to check them out. Links will be down below. Amazing. Thank you, Christina.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
I'll see you in a minute, Bailey. We're probably going to have a meeting, but yeah, it's been brilliant. Awesome.
Big love.